Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here. I'm Phil Rice. Welcome to the Phil Rice YouTube channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to bring on the guest shortly. I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping first. So thank you to everyone here. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Thank you to all the wonderful supporters, whether you are liking, sharing, commenting, um, uh, just helping out somehow. I want to say a big thank you also to the wonderful patrons who are donating in a financial sense. That is very, very warmly welcomed and gratefully received and appreciated. It helps the channel, helps me make stuff. And I also want to say too, guys, if you haven't already, I'll just pull this up. Go and check out my Substack. Why? Because I'm putting a bit of work into it. I've got articles. I've just written a new one here. Creativity. I've written one on Reiki. There's some free ones and some paid ones. But essentially, if you go to substack.com and sign up with the free version with your email, what it means is that we can stay in direct touch. And so you can go to philrice.substack.com, sign up for the free newsletter, and we can stay in touch if anything happens. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring our wonderful guest on. Okay. So this guest doesn't really need introduction because I've had him on before. So you can go and check out my previous interviews with him. But I want to bring back to the stage the one and only Dr. Richard Allen Miller. How are you, Rick? You doing well?
Oh man, I need an asylum right now in terms of what I've been having to go through. And just while you were doing your intro on me, my screen's changed 4 times to Microsoft and my account. I don't have an account with Microsoft, so I'm not sure how that all works unless it's with this. What are you using? Emux or whatever? I can't even pronounce it. What are you using? What is the system you're using?
We're using a live streaming cloud software called EVMux.
Yeah. Who owns that material? The cloud?
Well, this is a small.
Yeah, that's right. Microsoft. That's why I don't use Microsoft. They are taking control of your intellectual property, like mRNA. Take control of your physical property. You know, if your genetics are changed by any kind of pharmacy, there's a law, international now, where the pharmacy owns your physical body. That's why nobody wants to get the jab over here, because you can't take control when you die then necessarily going into an urn. Did you know that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an effort to sort of make records of as much data profiling every individual as possible. Yeah. And so this is not a secret. And, they're trying to normalize this, whether it's through corporate practices, government practices, and just get people hip with the idea that it's fine if everybody knows everything about you, whether you like it or not. So.
Yeah, profiling. That's the correct. Well, I did the first public demonstration of an AI back in 1972 for the military when I did Project Verifile. And I presented that at Claremont. And that's not the one they classified top secret. It was my embryonic holography. That's right, the bio-hologram. That's where it was first described, right after my holographic concept of reality. Now I'm writing a new field theory on the multiverse with 2 Russians. And I can tell you, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm being played. And I'm over 80. I'm almost 81. And yet, apparently, I know things I don't know. I don't know. It's scary. I don't want to be me anymore. I just want to go hide and finish my manuscripts. Are you ready for this? You've seen the books I've written, right? Bill?
Yep. So, yeah, no, I've got.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll do a recap on.
Okay. Here's the deal. I have 147 unfinished manuscripts that are of the same quality. Magick, which is about to follow the Diamond Body, is when I bypassed the use of drugs. Why is my hand moving around? I'm not even moving. I'm watching my picture. That's not me doing that. How's that work?
There's a
Or is
video.
everything in slow motion?
There's a lag with the video.
Lag. Magick, code blue. Oh, okay, let's move forward. So drugs are not what get you high. It's your immune system's response. And we knew that way back in 1979. Now, that's just one manuscript I want to publish that I did back then. Now, how come it's taken all these years for you to finally get that access to that information? Further, what I would like to talk about today is the future human beings versus aliens. And I'm going to start by telling you that I am the last remaining scientist that actually worked Project MJ12, Majestic. I did it under Nixon, and I reported to Dr. Carl Schleicher as Northwest Regional Director of MRU. Now, I've met Krill, and personally, I'm not sure what to make of the whole thing yet. We're going to talk about that today, but I'm going to say this about that. Anything with a face, 2 arms, and 2 legs is carbon-based, human. That's it. I've seen aluminum-based life forms, and that's creepy. You've watched too much TV, space, all the different science fiction movies from aliens in space and all of the rest. They're all biped. They're 2 arms, 2 legs. What happened is that in 1983, I took 12 NASA scientists to Mars, creating a wormhole. This was in 1983. That's the diamond body. How that all originated was I originally started with the Menninger Foundation in Topeka, Kansas, and moved that biofeedback laboratory to the University of Washington and added video feedback systems. That was the birth of Somatics. In 1979, using Mora and Indomet German acupuncture equipment, I broke a code on the forehead, wave shaping electric currents, and was able to release a neurotransmitter. That gave me access, and then I could release any neurotransmitter I wanted, i.e., I could release any high you wanted to experience. And in 1983, using both of those concepts, I then did Yogatronics, which is the 3rd book in that series, of which I have 147 books to write. Are we tracking? And that's where I am right now, being torn into pieces. I tried to do Carrie Cassidy yesterday, and my computer died 5 times in the middle of the broadcast. We only got the first half hour done and it didn't happen. So we're going to try to do it here with you and see what happens. And you and I have had our little things here. So the singularity that Kurzweil, personal friend of mine, talks about is when biological forms, carbon-based life forms, are married to silicon-based life forms. That's your so-called computer chip. Now, when that happens, man then, quote from Krill, when she told me, if you were to choose an artifact to remember Earth by, what would it be? And if you chose the right one, you'd get to choose a star of your choice to complete your evolution. What color do you want to be? Now, that means you're reptilian, you're tall grays, Nordics, all the different little green men that have morphed into our current list of aliens. Those are all human-based life forms in the future. And time is not real. And you and I, right now, this part of you and me, is a little aspect trapped in a matrix called the proton cloud. That's basically where the space between when a proton is a particle and then becomes a wave. And that's where your multiverse lies. And I'm going to say this about that. There is never going to be a big toe, theory of everything. Why? Chapter 8 in the non-local mind, which I wrote 4 years ago, Chapter 8 says the mind's eye, where imagination is reality. That means anything that you could imagine is possibly true is not only true, it's even way more than that. And basically, you and me are sugar ants in Gaia's kitchen. And Gaia serves the soul, which soul has a heliosphere, and soul serves the solar system, which has the Oort cloud. And Saturn has exactly the same geometry that I use to go to Mars. That means our solar system is a life form. And if you don't think NASA doesn't want to know where that wormhole goes, that's why I'm training Saturn 1 astronauts. I'm too old for this. Anyway, the proton cloud and the bio-hologram, you can see the bio field is created by DNA. Now, DNA does not exist in an aluminum-based life form. So what's DNA about? Well, DNA is something to do with carbon-based life forms and why the Petri dish we're in. There goes my video, just like we knew it. Oh, good. You can show that. Okay, excellent. Perfect. That paper is on ResearchGate. I'm working with 2 Russian scientists on that right now, and my little what we call Stockholm two-step to get for the Nobel Prize. I don't care about the prize. What I care about is opening for Saturday Night Live. That's my bucket list. Now, the next one down the line, you'll notice I have alien DNA study grant. There it is. And then there's my non-local mind and holographic universes. That's where you want to start your educational process, because chapter 7 in that one is called Time Travel and the True Nature of Cavitation and Why God Gave You 2 Brains. Yeah, the reason I did a 5-group like that is it's cheaper to ship those books to Australia and New Zealand than sending a single book. Single book's going to cost you half again as much just for the postage than the book itself. And so what I'm trying to do is get my information out there. I can do ebooks, and I have a bunch of those on my site as well. Imagine if you see the titles I have there, imagine what I'm trying to finish right now with 147 manuscripts. I'm being stopped at every orifice. I can't believe it. It's just unbelievable. Now, what is consciousness and what is an altered state of consciousness? Well, I gave 8 altered states of consciousness to the SEAL program, and it turned them into super soldiers. Imagine what man could become if he had access to 400 altered states, not to get high and escape, but to be used as tools in a toolbox, where your mind, we're going to talk about that next. I guess I should do that right now. In an altered state, and probably most of your listeners have just gone into 3 different altered states just listening to what I had to say, when their mind went, oh, and then they started to see something in their mind's eye. That is what makes it real in this universe. And altered states of consciousness, each one of them, the laws of physics change. And that means you have access to almost anything you imagine God to become. However, bilocation is where you access one of your other altered states simultaneously with consciousness. That's what Castaneda wrote as bilocation, quite different than astral projection or remote viewing. That has to do with the physical body, and it's not real. Consciousness is a dream state. And all the different future use that Carl Jung called the collective unconscious is not out of the 9/10 of the cerebral cortex, it's about the 900 millionth cerebral. How many decisions did you make just today that changed the lives of all those around you? And then imagine that every single thing you thought you had an option to that changed the universe, that universe actually did happen. The problem is, man, being a sugar ant, has fewer options in terms of what you can imagine is possible. An octopus has more neural networking in his arms than you do in your brain. And we have no idea where we're going. I know I don't. Physics always begins with an assumed truth. That means, is the earth round or flat? That's an argument I've always used that most general people can get. Is it round or is it flat? And the correct answer is yes, because space isn't real. It's a construct, just like time is. It's something that man invented as a way to understand what memory is and what it is not. Now, the importance of it, the way I'd like to do it is Magick with a C is hairy in your pocket, sleight of hand. It means something's going on, but you don't quite understand what you think, so you think it's supernatural. It's not. He's just pickpocketing you. Magick with a K is sleight of mind, where you use your belief system as a tool to accomplish your purpose. And your belief system, Jesus said it, I believe it, bang, and that's that, is very, very limited. And why all our wars in this last 12,000 years have been around religion. Are the Arabs or the Jews correct? And again, the correct answer is yes. You want to go somewhere with that, or did you want to intervene? I'm just doing a monologue here, and I'd be glad. I actually respond better when you ask me questions. I don't mean to monologue. I realize we've got a terrible connection, and that's probably with intent. And I don't know if it's some hacker or stalker. I've got a bunch of them.
That's
and
okay.
then who knows? It might be an alien doesn't want me to, because Saturn may be a get out of jail card, but it only has room for 144,000. What do you think? All aboard? I know I don't want to be around here anymore. Now that I'm starting to realize what's going on, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I know I don't know. And I'm a physicist, and I'm probably as good as it gets, and I know you can't get there from here. Simon says you can go halfway to the door. And speaking of Simon, there is an interesting person that is developing a field theory of his own. The problem is he's using an AI that makes him right because imagination is reality. Newsflash. And the bottom line is an AI is so much more quickly able to go to places that you presume that that's where our future aliens come from and are visiting us to make sure that, I have an aneurysm, or no, my partner has an aneurysm, whatever. It's crazy. And I know it's crazy. And I'm not sure what to think about all of it. And I don't want to become a paranoid. And I want to make everybody feel good. But how do you do that in the atmosphere and event horizons of what's going on right now? It's nuts. And I don't have an answer to those kinds of things. What I can do is answer for myself. And my intent, the way I go about my purpose, is to try and leave things better than I found them. Like if I can open your mind to some new ideas, I will have accomplished my intent aspect of purpose in terms of finishing 147 manuscripts. I've got a bunch of stuff I've been writing on alternative ag, on Magick. My book on tarot is a whole new take on it, like Magick is. The title is going to be called The Magical and Ritual Use of Metaphor, Archetypal Gods in Daily Living. The Greek culture, 11,200 years ago, worked with archetypes. And what they're basically suggesting is that there are only 22 stories in the big city, your major arcana. And Persephone, having to go to hell each year, is a kid taking drugs once a year because he's depressed at Christmas, as a metaphor. And if that's true, then you and I probably have 5 or 6 different archetypal storyboards going on inside us. And each one has an ending. And if you don't like that ending, that's what rituals are about, the celebration of a myth, where you change the movie. How's that one work? Over?
Yeah, so when it comes to exploring the applications of metaphysics for leveraging, to get an edge on a game where the deck is pretty much stacked against us, you can list out the numbers of sort of weaponized, trajectories coming towards us: food, water, media, people, all this kind of thing. And so, when it comes to this magic versus magic conversation, this is valuable because I think, getting a clear line between those two terms, and because they do sort of get lumped in together, but that magic with a K, which is our chief concern here, which is, essentially us being able to exert our influence on the world, not just mesmerize people with sleight of hand. What can we do with what we have at hand at any given time? And there's internal skills that we can develop, and so these tools are going to help us with our decision making and our navigation of this changing landscape, which is changing abruptly. It's jarring. And I think the soul's getting smacked around as it gets dragged through the corridors. And so, your work, Rick, is valuable because it gives, a physicist's insight into metaphysics. And, it's deep and it's helpful.
All your saints in history have stressed the importance of meditation, training the mind. You might start there. Jesus of Nazareth actually went to India looking for a teacher just like I did. My parents were atheists, and they sent me to Missouri Synod Catechism to armor me against what was going on in our high schools with missionary movement. And when I came out of graduate school, I knew there was something else going on. What and how, from my point of view and my understandings and choices that I made, I didn't know. So what I did is I spent 6 years with Gershom Scholem learning Old Hebrew and Greek to do my own translations. Now, the bad news is I didn't find answers there. I found more questions. What do you mean? Well, Qumran, Dead Sea Scrolls, there are 2 Dead Sea Scrolls that they don't talk about very much. That one was written 80 years after the fact and another was 120. However, the first one suggests you don't put the king of Jerusalem on a cross. They put his brother Simon on it, and political. And the second one confirms that 120 years later, and also affirms the fact that they tried to give him something to drink to get him off the cross before he was dead. Now, did those happen? I don't know. But the fact that that was written back then and considered credible during that period, I could tell you, for example, that the Catholic Church and the teachings of Christ went in opposite directions in the year 1000 when Pope Innocent I declared war on the Cathars, the bloodlines of Christ. And we think of Christ as something special. So does Muhammad and Buddha. And you'll notice that Muslims are much more devout to their religions than Christianity, with all of their, what are these called, the charismatics and the born agains and the Bible thumpers and the old schools and all the different forms of Christianity that are out there. One saying it, the difference between Missouri Synod and American Synod catechisms and just in that, the difference between the Missouri Synod and it's nuts. It's nuts. And the reason I go to church, and I go to a bunch of different churches, is that I find a group of people that have behavior and belief systems that I aspire toward in the way they act. You go for fellowship. And you find that everywhere. And some churches are, with charismatics, aren't even about that. They're about the individual and how great he is and what he can do to heal leukemia or whatever. And I know that I don't know. And so, as like Christ, I'm not probably as high a mystic as he was, because I've met mystics in India that were way beyond where I am spiritually. And when I say that, I've met Sharon Singh. He initiated me into Sant-Bat, and I meditate since 1979 every day, trying to train my mind. And I will never be a fifth plane mystic. I'm more like a fourth plane. I used to smoke pot with Pir Vilayat Khan and Yogi Bhajan. These were people I grew up with, and I know them like I know myself. And my belief systems are different than Yogi Bhajan. He was more militant than I am. That's okay, because what's right for me is not right for you. And that's what made us unique. I think there probably are as many different religions as there are human beings. And the purpose of church is for fellowship, where you seek out a group of people that have values you would like to aspire toward, become more like that. And everybody's different. And nobody is actually wrong. The only person, according to Christ anyway, that you can judge is yourself. So why are you looking at other religions as wrong? You can't say they're wrong, not according to his teachings anyway. So I'm confused. And what I am is I'm more right-brained. I hang out in the sciences, which means I like to use reproducibility and repeatability as my valid foundation. That means I can use it and can count on it and understand how it works. Altered states. When I gave the SEAL program 8 altered states that turned him into Superman, the first one was a work that I did at Mission Control in 1971 with Ed Mitchell, because back then both ESP and hypnosis were pseudosciences. Today, we know that hypnosis is a very valuable tool for changing behavior, trying to learn something or study something, which is different than learning. Study is when you take someone's information and make it yours. You integrate it into your value system and use it. And what I discovered at Mission Control in 1971 was that there's an altered state away from consciousness that you could easily go to with self-hypnosis that allowed you to have an ability in guessing that was 400 times more accurate than where you are in consciousness. And that study paper is ESP induction through forms of self-hypnosis, and started me on my career of writing rather than researching. And of course, because I'm a country boy, I went into agriculture, which means essentially, with my interest in meta meaning beyond physics, I have had possibly 3 lifetimes in one, integrating them into a purpose, which is to leave footprints for the future. And in my humble opinion, I'll give you 2 examples of 2 manuscripts I'm writing. One is when Dr. Norm Shealy and I did 2.5 years of weekly radio where we allowed 6th graders to ask questions on public could answer. And that title is called Children Ask the Darndest Questions, because I personally think our children are possibly our most important natural resource, not timber, not oil, our children. They're the ones that are going to save this earth, not you or me. And the big question I would say to you is, why would we want to send our children to school to become us? And the purpose of that book is to show the genius in children. Typical question. if pigs are so smart, how come parrots can talk and pigs can't? The second book, Norm died. I'm going to be co-authoring this with a friend of mine that died, is when we interviewed those kids when they turned 21, and the question we asked them then was, how did being on national radio, asking questions nobody could answer, how did that affect your career, your life choices, and what you are now attempting to become? And that book is about educational reform and the need to realize that children are way, way more valuable. I'm gifted in that I'm basically, in some minor ways, a 4-year-old that never became 7. I have synesthesia and eidetic memory. That means I don't hear music, I actually see it. And so working at the Brit for 20 years as a volunteer, picking up garbage, possibly the nicest gift I ever gave myself. Why? Because of the jazz and the music that I got to go to 5 days a week with world-class musicians for 20 years free. Now, I don't know how to do it for you. The way I'm doing it is that I'm training my mind and realizing that my values, why I want to do it this way, not that way, is to some extent arbitrary. And I have done it the other way in other universes, not this particular one that's talking to you on the radio in New Zealand. And I know that I don't know. And that's why I would say there will never be a theory of everything, because the assumed truth is if the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, the Earth's round. However, if space is curved, I can prove it's flat. Now, which one is it? That's why I say the correct answer is yes. And the bad news is I'm a grumpy old man. I can't even say, come back, I can still bite.
I've got a question for you, Rick.
Okay, so here we are at the end of the day. Really, here we are. And we're in a petri dish. The study I did with the military back in 1974 is that I went back 5 different epochs. Every 12,000 years, there's a magnetic pole shift in the Earth, and the core of Earth spins in the opposite direction. And all the planets in our solar system have now reversed pole, including the sun. And the only planet that hasn't done it is Earth and Mercury, and we're due at any moment. And is this a good thing or a bad thing? Well, I don't know, and I'm not sure it's a magnetic pole shift, because that's the way we look at it from a physics point of view. Here's the bad news. I had to use geology to do my study because there's nothing survives written. The Greek culture, for example, was 11,200 years ago. So here we are at the end of days. Now, I'm going to give you another thought that's kind of interesting. When I flew over the Oregon vortex at 15,000 feet in an old PBY with an interferometer, what bends light at 15,000 feet? A mini black hole. But I'm going to suggest that it isn't a magnetic pole shift that happens. It's a series of mini black holes around the Earth called the ley lines and Bermuda Triangle and some of the other. What do you want me to do, time? Are you running out of time?
On. No, you're fine. You carry on.
Oh, okay. I saw you pointing to something, and I didn't know what you were doing because I don't have this system.
Don't worry about me. You just carry on, Rick.
I worry about everything now, Phil. I'm seeing shadows and everything now. It's crazy being me. I don't like it. I don't want to be a paranoid. I want to have fun. And especially at my age, I want to go out and... Go ahead.
Yep. So you were
Over.
just
What?
talking about a black hole refracting light when you're
Okay,
in a
so I
plane.
think that the many black holes, I think that our ley lines and the Bermuda Triangle and some of these other anomalies on Earth that we haven't really spent a lot of time on, I think are a series of many black holes in a sacred geometry going into the out of. And the only reason we see them as magnetic pole shifts is because we're still sugar ants. I know I don't know. I know that there's a high likelihood I'll never really know. Doesn't work like that. You can't get there from here. And Simon says I can go halfway to the door. I've never gotten my cigar. And well, you know, you kind of want to have closings on certain things, and it just doesn't work like that. And so, what I'm trying to do now is move forward. I'm flat broke. I'm living in a terrible Peyton place, creepy place here, and I'm watching how I'm being kept on a choke collar. Why? I'm not that big a deal. This is radio, it isn't TV. And it certainly isn't. I'm not president of the United States. When I went into Richard Nixon's office once a week, because I was Project MJ12 and had to give him reports, that guy was intelligent, but the arrogance of people at that level of management of our things is so, it was disgusting. That's my personal opinion. And right now, what's happening with Trump and Biden and what's happening in America with what we're doing to Canada and Mexico, I can candidly say that the fires in California were a particle beam weapon, the same one that was used in Hawaii, and that what's ultimately going to happen is that California will be given to China. China already owns almost all of America's agricultural ground. And what was in the smoke that everybody was inhaling? It's graphene oxide. Whoops, there goes another rubber tree. I can tell you that I don't know what's going on, but there's a group of people that are, whatever reason, working with aliens, maybe, I don't know, trying to control our population. It's easier to control a smaller group of people. I think money is the root of most all evil. Cyndi Lauper, you know, money changes everything. It does. And Madonna, being a materialistic girl, there she is, has truth. I'm flat broke. All I have is my Social Security and book sales. And yet, with all the books I've written, how come I only sold 5 books last month? 5 books, $100, maybe $120 to go along with my $1,260. Not enough to cover rent, food, and transportation. And so here I am in the Tijuana jail, ain't got no money to make my bail. Feel free to patron, but more, what I really want you to do is buy my books and read them. Because if you do that, then you're going to write your own books. And that's what needs to happen is we need a larger group of people with a voice that is speaking out about what's going on right now. Now, here's a sidebar that says, and for 5,000, for the last 5 epochs, 12,000, 12,000, 12,000, that study had a 3 sigma error coefficient. The one I did, 99.9975% probability of the event occurring. However, curveball number 1. Billet reading is another form of psychism that has nothing to do with ESP. That was the studies I did with Jack Schwartz, Uri Geller, and Keith Milton Reinhardt of the Aquarian Foundation. And I'm going to give you an example of what billet reading is and then tell you something that just happened. Billet reading is where I write a question down and put it in my pocket. And then the individual answers the question without knowing the question. Mine was, prove to me you're not reading my mind. Response. In my mother's bedroom is a hope chest at the front of her bed, and at the very bottom of that hope chest is a letter written 3 days before you were born. How did he do that? That's not in my mind. He's not reading my mind. Where did he get that information? Akashic records, what's that mean? See, I like reproducibility. Okay, well, there's a group of, they're all three of those guys I did the studies on are dead now. But there's a group of women in Australia that are real credible. They've been nailing things like they did with me, and I'm not sure what it all means, except the military called me on it. They said, quote, something just turned the AI on Mars off that's been controlling our solar system for 2 billion years. What does that mean? Well, it means that possibly we're not going to have the magnetic pole shift, or that Saturn may be a get out of jail card. I don't know. Here's what I do know. The military called me because I'm really good at isolating variables. And they said, if what they said is true, what would have been that switch that turned off the AI? And I said, that's easy. It was when Nibiru blocked Betelgeuse for 4 days last November. That event was statistically impossible. It wasn't million to one. Think about it. You've got two celestial objects, okay, that are moving in space, and they both happen to block your view at that moment. That's impossible. Thinking in terms of all around the Earth and that event happening with two little points of light in the sky. And yet, it happened. And you don't know this, but I do. Space, the definition of space, has changed from astrology to astronomy. And because of the discovery of dark matter back in the 60s and 70s, and what they're doing at CERN, the new definition of space is titled Cosmobiology, the geometric relationship of celestial bodies on biological processes. When a woman is born, for example, an engram is set on her DNA on when she's going to ovulate. That's why I'm talking about the bio-hologram. It's set up with astrology, astronomy, space, a concept of space. And the new definition, when a woman moves on Earth, the moon is so close as a figure in celestial bodies that her ovulation cycle changes. Isn't that interesting? And so space, as we think of it, with our solar system, the star system, galaxies, plural, and light years, is all construct. It's not real. Something else is going on. Welcome to Baracha, honey. That was from the Great Race when Great Leslie and Dr. Fate walked in this bar. And the dancer comes out, welcome to Baracha, honey. Anything goes.
I've got a question for
Phil,
you, Rick.
Yeah.
So one of the audience members has posed a question, and I'll just put it up and I'll read it out. Mr. Miller.
That's what I like, by the way. I'd rather respond to questions. Yeah. Perfect.
So, the audience member, Will, thank you for the question, Will. Do you think that the increase in magic power or spiritual power recently is the divine's response to the increase in great power warfare and social depravity? I'm not sure how I would quantify a rise in spiritual energy. There's definitely fluctuations happening, but would you like to comment on that question?
I probably can't. I can give you an opinion, but I don't know. Actually, I really don't. It's an excellent question, but it presumes energy is real and psychic powers are real. And really, just the laws of physics change when you change your breathing. For example, I'll give you an example of how you use these powers or altered states as tools. One of the tools that, by the way, the 8 that I gave the SEAL program is called, what is that? Power
Power
tools for the
tools. Yeah.
21st century. Yeah, the power tools. That's why it's part of that 5-book set, and also living off the grid for 30 days. Now, with that said, one of the things I do is breathing. And you can change your perception of time with breath control. I do it at the YMCA when I go swimming. I will not walk through the water like an old farts do. What I do is I try to run in slow motion, where I'm running in slow motion, in the water. And then what that does is it helps me start to slow down my perception of time with breath control. And I'll fall back into the water and inhale in, and my body floats to the surface, and I exhale and I sink down a little bit, and then I inhale. Now, when you do that in that altered state, what you're doing is allowing you to take your martial art to a paranormal level, because there, in that state, you experience Hangao, which is the form I use, into Pakua, into Tai Chi. And everything I'm doing is in slow motion with the precision of my consciousness. That's an altered state that you use as a tool to take martial arts to a paranormal level. So imagine, and I just the joint, look, got that. What can you do with that one? There's your challenge, and where your magic becomes real.
So I've got a question for you.
More questions. Yeah, more answers, more questions, not answers. Yeah.
So just to further on what what Will has asked. Now, my presumption is that, and observations is that when there is a certain amount of, say, there's got to be an evening out. There's going to be a self-correcting nature to the universe seeking harmony. And if there is a lot of what we might call sort of dark activity taking place by certain groups, then it would seem sensible that then there
You
is
mean
also.
Kumbaya? Oh, I've got an answer. I know where you're going with that. I got it. Alien. What do you think? I watched Orca, a killer whale, chasing dolphin as food chain up into Orcas Island, Straits of Juan de Fuca. What do you think an alien, in your mind's eye, what do you think an alien might be eating as a metaphor? Emotions. And the kinkier is the fatter sugar content of that of that food, like pedophilia. And the more he eats, the fatter he gets, and he needs to lose some weight. What do you think? It's a metaphor. Emotions? I don't know. What I could tell you is, I now believe that the reason Krill asked for me, because my assignment was working under Schleicher, was paranormal, not alien studies. That was more Carol Rosin and the space program, secret space program. Now, with that said, why she asked for me, I don't really know, other than possibly it was my future programming me for this moment to change and help you. What do you think of that one? I don't know. I don't know, because the memory of what happened in that 20 minutes, the amount of information I was downloaded from her was like a lifetime of words. And that's where our language goes. And incorrectly, Alan Frey and I developed synthetic telepathy. Basically, I'm working at 0.3 to 3 gigahertz, and I heterodyne audio on it. You can hear it inside your head rather than through the eardrum. That is not how Krill was communicating to me. I don't know how she did that communication. However, it was deep emotion, and that's why I now realize my IQ, I'm 158, 159. So what? I now realize that's not intelligent. What that's measuring is my adaptability to new situations, survival coefficient. And EQ, that a lot of women have more of or more developed in, is the marriage of IQ and EQ, or your right and left brain. And there's something else going on that I don't understand yet, but have to give it to the women in points, you know? And my Sifu always told me never take your eye off the person when you do this. You always still look at them. I'm just kidding. So I didn't answer your question, but I'm trying to give you a direction on how I would approach that question. You see where I'm going, Phil?
Yep.
Yeah, it's about, and everybody's different. Every single person is going to hear me differently. And that's the distinction between learning something and studying it, where you take what I have to offer and make it yours and you change it. And it gets better for you. And that is where we need to go next, no matter what, because they're not evil any more than I'm evil. You know, people used to think of me as the Satan because I was so high up in magic and the study of magic with OTO that, well, my goodness, they offered me the caliphate when Grady McMurtry died. And I turned it down because I didn't want to run a magic order that was mostly inhabited by a bunch of young kids trying to rationalize their use of drugs. Oh, wow, man, let's go get it. All right. Ketamine, let's do her. Yeah. Those were the studies I did in anesthesiology that gave me tenure. I did ketamine, telepathine, BZ, and BZ gas. And I can tell you, I don't know what I'm doing. I have realized when Strassman took over my work with dimethyltryptamine, telepathine, when you smoke it out of crabgrass, it's 5 alpha dimethyltryptamine, but it's a toxin. But it's so close to your neurotransmitter that what happens next is that your immune system freaks out and releases N comma N hyphen dimethyltryptamine, which is the one I use to help create the wormhole with my internal visualization or mind's eye. I know I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, yeah, those are, oh, on the tools, you see that section there? I am going to add 5 major tools. 3 of them were $400 courses, 400, 400, and 400, on work I did with Scientology and Bill Harris on what's called the changing belief systems like you would a pair of clothing, the life integration courses. And I'm going to probably sell them for 40 to 50 bucks each. And they're 18-week courses each. And those are going to be some tools I'm going to upload under the tool section in the next week or so. And there's others that use it for flying and jet lag. Kelly Howell has some stuff and others that were put out back in the 90s. I'm hoping to modify them and offer them as tools for the brain drivers that are on there. And I don't know if you see the brain driver there, but that brain driver kit is was the most popular thing bought on my website. If you go to tools, you'll see the brain driver kit. That is one when I did Rex Bear. That's all everybody bought was that brain driver. And now what I'm going to do is try to add some tools to that. Yeah, that brain driver kit. It's quite a lot of things in there. You know, if you go to Metaphysics, you'll see I have 15 8-week courses I taught at Harvard in Metaphysics. And what you're going to get in those books, downloads, is all the references. Everything Crowley wrote, Golden Dawn, other things that I quoted from. You can build up your library right there. And what I'm seeking, what I need, is some help. I can do anything really well. I've never the best in anything, but I can do almost anything really well. I can't do everything at all. It's way too much for me. That Project Paraphile, you just passed one there. That would, yeah, that and all these agricultural books. Yeah, Project Paraphile that is the first public demonstration of an AI that I did down at Claremont. And the Magical and Ritual Use series is now going to have the Magical and Ritual Use of Metaphor. And that book will be Pantheon as a tarot book. And then I'm going to have a whole Magick series that I've done on the holistic Kabbalah. There'll be 12 volumes on that, using the different uh, 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 points like Malkuth and Yethod as tools in your ritual and how to do that. I hope that I can finish all my work before I turn into a worm casing. And so I have a shopping list of people that I need. And every time I try to put a team together, it collapses. However, Dr. Valerie Olmsted and a couple of medical doctors have contacted me because they believe in my work with herbal pharmacy. That Magical and Mushroom Handbook, that was one of the first things I ever did with the High Times. And now I'm writing on pharmaceutical mushrooms, polysaccharides, and beta glucans that turn your immune system on. There are 3 forms of mushrooms. I did all 3. I did the psychedelic, and then I went into gourmet, where I would export out of Thunder Bay into Europe, chanterelle and morels, and all the things that we collected here in the United States is gourmet mushrooms. The polysaccharide, the pharmaceutical mushrooms, would be like cordyceps and reishi and some of the others. And what they have are sugars that are called beta glucans and polysaccharides. And a polysaccharide would be a sugar that has over 100 molecules of oxygen in it. And if you knock that down into nanometer, it doesn't have to go into the gut, murdering, as an antibiotic, murdering everything as it comes up the gut. Basically, if you run it through a jet engine at Mach 4, you knock it down to 40 nanometer, you can put a single grain on your tooth that's abscessed, and it's cured within 2 hours. What happens is the polysaccharide falls through the cell wall like an asteroid through the solar system, and then it goes right directly to ATP. Your adenosine triphosphate is a little quark gluon plasma that just turns on your immune system. It needs oxygen. And that thing turns on, and it's cured within a few minutes. If you had problems in your lungs, you'd lay on your back and have someone mystify the pharmaceutical mushroom in a cloud falling on your chest, and it'll fall right through the chest, right directly onto the lung. And instead of getting only 28% of your chemistry, you're now getting more than 99% of the chemistry in the pharmaceutical mushroom. And there are 72 of those. And when you do a group of 5 or 6 pharmaceutical mushrooms, what you're doing is getting a whole series of beta glucans. You have sugars, which are little tiny things. Beta glucans have all these different structures, and the more mushrooms you combine gives you a larger geometry, and you mix that with transfer factor, and that sets up on your cell wall as an immune system enhancer. And then the beta polysaccharides are the ones that turn on the quark gluon plasma. And that's some more studies that I've done. And there's a series of possibly 7 books on how to grow all these different mushrooms. Those are my metaphysical courses right there. Mm-hmm. And each one of those was an 8-week course during a period when PC Link was turning into AOL. Mark Hume hired me. That Carillion photography right there, that book, that was my first thing in 1970 that turned, when I came out of grad school, I did that and discovered that the Carillion photography was just secondary emission of electrons. However, it wasn't doing the aura. What it did do is Dr. Donaldson at Washington State University, who was my senior physics professor 2 years previous, made him take that work and invent the MRI. And so what I'm doing is trying to lay some groundwork that will lead to us getting out of here. Is that the right way to put it? Yeah, want to go for a little ride? There's only 144,000 seats, 144,000 seats available. But I don't know what Saturn is, but it has exactly the 12 scientists. 3 of them are still alive. One of them still worked at NASA, and when they did that Saturn flyby, that's when he said, "Hey, wait a minute, that's the wormhole geometry Miller used to take us to Mars." And that's what started up the red alert at NASA, because where that wormhole goes, I have no idea. But if Earth is going to have a magnetic pole shift, and here's an interesting note. This is why I'm so circular, not linear. Homo neanderthalis was a more evolved species than Homo sapien. It had 3 rings in the DNA. Where is it? Yeah, that's what I'd like to see some of us survive. Homo neanderthalis is the one that took Homo sapien out of the cold and taught him how to do fire and write. Where is that species? Well, we find 3% of it in the DNA in Africa, but it didn't survive. That's how bad magnetic pole shift is, as I understand them. Sorry about that, Phil. I didn't mean to be so negative. It's just heads up. You call it, negativity and the way things are crashing. I know that I don't know. And what I want to do is leave footprints, because it'll be our children that save the earth, not us.
There's something to be said about leaving the place a little better than you found it. And I think this is something that many people who've been listening to you speak can get the gist of, is that you have a large body of work from many different ventures in your life. And I've got a stack of your books, and I've read these, and they're very useful. They're very helpful. And there's an open-heartedness with the sharing that I really love, Rick. And, this is something I think, guys, when you buy, if you buy Rick's book, Power Tools, for example, I'll pull it up. I'll pull up the bookstore. If you buy his book, Power Tools, even just that one book, where is it? Where are we? Power Tools. Here we go. Here.
Right. If you where that came from.
Yeah. So this is
the
just
bad news is, there's bad news. Yeah, there's bad news. Amazon is purposely, with intent, publishing most of my books without my permission, which means if you buy my books from Amazon, if they're not autographed, they didn't come from me.
Yeah. So guys, what I'm saying here,
everything you buy from me will be autographed.
Yeah. So ideally, you buy direct from the author. We do this. This is just generally good encouragement anyway, support the direct purchase. Now, you can buy these books of Rick's in ebook as well from the website. But I just wanted to highlight that those of you who are looking for methodologies for practicing, extrasensory perception or improving your ability to make correct guesses, psychic abilities, if we want to, this book is really good, because it outlines some very useful and comprehensive practices for developing a skill. And this is one book out of a series of 3. But this book here, as a starting point, is so dense. There is so much information in this book. And there is a methodology to the structure of the book as well that's quite interesting to lean into. But seriously, these books are jam-packed and well worth the money. I've got them, and I tend to find new value on rereads. And so I would encourage you guys, Rick has just got so much material, and all he needs is to be supported so he can carry on putting this material out for people to, to access.
You're going to make me cry. I'm kidding.
Well,
thank you for that.
That's okay.
I appreciate that.
I haven't finished. Let me carry on making you cry.
Sorry.
Brother, look, seriously, guys, if you're looking for good bang for your buck, as far as the density of the information goes, you really can't go past this book. In fact, I would even say, if you're going to, and you'll thank me later, is if you're going to get them, there's actually a whole pack, and we'll just find that. Where are we? We'll find the pack. There's the workbooks, because they come with workbooks as well. Here we go. Here's the mega pack for 54 US, and I believe all of these are on ebook as well. But this here, I've got, I think, most of these, and the amount of information, it's for those of you who are on the Barden path, you will appreciate the aggregation of lots of material. This is a similar kind of conversation where Rick has basically brought together everything and in a very generous way slammed it into these books.
I have to leave for 1 second. I'll be back. Go ahead. Yep. Phil, I have to leave for a second. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. I'll be right back.
Sure. So yeah, if you're looking for dense, like I say, dense information packages with a spin of the scientific approach and methodology, you really can't go past Rick's work here. And this stuff is pretty old, but you'll find that most, in a large percentage of the cases, it'll still stand up. And I'm not a physicist, but reading Rick's stuff and listening to his story about how he started with physics and moved into magic to help him make sense, you can see how these two worlds are not exclusive of each other. And so, Rick, sorry, I have actually muted you there, so you'll have to unmute yourself. But yeah, guys, this selection of materials on Rick's website is quite vast. And so you'll have to go and explore. But I would say if anyone's looking to get started, these books here, whether it's the ESP book or the Power Tools, these are great places to start with and well worth exploring. So we'll just wait for Rick to come back in. Are you there, Rick? Nope. I think he's there. Hang on, we'll try the different view here. Nope. Rick's disappeared. Rick, if you can hear me, your camera's off and we can't hear you. So I'll just have a quick scroll through this rest of the site here while we're waiting on Rick. But Rick's also shared some PDFs about his efforts to get his conversation in front of the academic arena. And he's got some other scientists he's working with, and look, these are topics that, people go into great lengths here to get this sort of material available to the public and even just get it into discussion circles, because this is obviously material that not a lot of people want to talk about. And so, no connection, removed from scene. Where's Rick gone? He's just disappeared. So hopefully he'll be back in shortly. So yeah, guys, all this stuff's worth checking out. Rick's got a stack of material. If you jump on to Google and just type in Richard Allen Miller, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, you'll just find that there's just huge amounts of data. And, there's also so many interviews with him online on YouTube as well. I've done one on this channel with him already on magic and physics. And it goes on. So Rick's must have disappeared. Let's see, is he in here? Nope. Okay. We'll just hang out for a bit, guys. So I tell you this now, if anyone's got any questions for Rick or for myself or just anything we've been talking about, now's a good time. Throw it in while we're just waiting for the bro to come back in. And It's possible something curly went down. But how's everyone going? Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. It's getting Rick on as he's got so much to talk about, and we just hit the go button and off he goes, and these gems will just pop out. And so I'd love to hear any of the audience's insights into anything that you've heard so far as well. But essentially, the beginning of the conversation was sort of revolving around this concept of well, you know what's funny, Will, is that Rick will tell us that he wrote the original first season of the X-Files, and then that was taken off him. And he will even say, you will hear him say, that Mulder was fashioned from him in his time working in paranormal research in Navy Intel. So it's funny you mentioned that. Okay. But what we were talking about, guys, is we was talking about future humans versus aliens. And this idea that, the bipedal, humanoid was, was at some point human. Talking about the greys and the various life forms. At one point they were human, and they're us in the future. And this is just speculation. I haven't, I've had maybe some kind of loose interaction with something, but it's hard to denote. There's a whole almost this taxonomy, if you wish, of encounters with a variety of beings, whether they're physical, not from this planet, or if they're phasing in and out, or if they're more spiritual beings, these kinds of things. And I'm sure that there's people in the chat who have had their own experiences too. But just a separation between, what a human is going to look like in, say, 100, 200, 1,000, maybe even 10,000 years from where we are now. Now, even if this particular round lasts, is the next question, because we seem to have these stories of like human civilization going amok or something happening, and then there needs to be a cleaning of the slate. So whether or not we make it to that is another thing. But and maybe you guys have heard this too, that many of the species visiting this planet are us from the future coming back to try and figure out where things went wrong. And in a parallel sort of conversation to that, this talk of the ancient Egyptians visiting the original people of Australia. The Gosford glyphs are an example where we see Egyptian hieroglyphs etched into a rock formation in it's near Sydney in Australia, I believe. But this idea that these advanced civilizations, if we call it that, like the Egyptians or the Atlanteans, perhaps, they came to visit the original people of Australia, who'd been apparently living the same way for a very long time. The Egyptians came to visit the Aussie people, the original people in Australia, to help them get back to the more holistic, natural connection. So yeah. Anyway, I'm not sure what happened to Rick, guys. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he might even mention it in one of my previous interviews, Will. So, it's pretty fun to listen to. I mean, when you look at the body of work that he's got, that he puts out, I mean, he's shared some unprinted manuscripts with me. And, man, the guy has just got so much material. And he's written fiction as well. So, comic books and screenplays and things too. So, yeah. Okay. Okay. Hang on, Rick. I'm just trying to bring him back in. I'll just send you through the link again, Rick, so you can join us back here in the studio. See how you get on. Otherwise, send us another email and we'll call it there. But yeah, this is one of the challenges, guys. You know, I've experienced this and sometimes it's the topic. Sometimes it might just be all the kids coming home from school and blocking up the internet. But yeah, sometimes it's funny that certain conversations seem to get more type glitches when we're doing lives and recordings and things. Yeah. Okay. Just another reminder, peeps, please go check out philrice.substack.com. You can connect with me direct via giving me your email. I won't share it with anyone. It's just going to be you and me connecting and into your inbox. And I've got a series of blogs coming out regularly now, probably a couple 2 to 3 a week. Some of them are sort of like creative writing, not so much. Well, they are. Yeah, they are. They are to help you out on the path, sharing insights from my own experience, but also, you know, I'm covering topics like Reiki, general self-development, worldview, lens, and also hermetics as well. I'll be doing much more with hermetics, and this will be something that should be fairly interesting, I think. You know, there's already so much commentary on the initiation pathway. So really, how to stand out is you just give your take on it. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So please, yes, go to philrice.substack.com. You can get the free newsletter, which is plenty of stuff on there. You can get all the same stuff that's on the YouTube channel. There's no ads. And you can watch or listen with your screen off. Or you can listen to it with your screen off. You can bounce between it. You can also cast to your TV and things, but there's less middlemen involved. And if you decide to go, you know what, man, I really love this channel and all the stuff that Phil's makes and all the effort he puts in, I want to hook a bro up. I have like a subscription fee, a paid subscription version on Substack. It's about a coffee a month. It's very helpful, guys. If I can get enough people rocking that, man, that would be awesome. You know, it's not too much. Don't really want to go Patreon. And I'm really grateful to all of you that have gone outside of your usual comfort zones to get onto Substack too, because I know, you know, people that go out of their way to follow me like that, I really appreciate that. It's easier to click on YouTube and Facebook and things like that. But okay. Doesn't look like I'll just hang in a bit longer. So yeah, what's coming up? So let's just, while we're waiting on Rick, we'll talk some Phil stuff. Okay, let's bring that over there, and then I will come down here. So, all right, everyone. So coming up, we have on the Phil Rice YouTube channel, I've got some more to put in actually, but what I do have is I have a new episode of The Bard Inn featuring several teachers from the web. It's Barden, it's Franz Barden oriented, but it's not. It's also Barden related. So many practices will use Barden as the basic framework, and then they'll innovate in, around, and beyond. And so this panel here, it's largely Barden oriented, and that's why it's called the Bard Inn, for those of you. So we're going to be having a live stream panel, the first one since far out. When was the last one? Maybe August, I think. I'd have to look it up, but it's been a long time. And I've got, we're going to keep the participant number smaller so that we can get through more questions with everyone. And at this point, we've got returning, we've got awesome Philip Harris Smith, David Paul Coleman, and Armand and Didi from Chi Skills. So we have an alchemist, and we have an astrologer, and we have Tai Chi, yoga, and 5 elements Chinese food. So we've got a wide range of skill sets, all practicing, working with Barden. And there's more to these people as well, guys. So really looking forward to that. So that's coming up this Sunday, New Zealand time, at around about sort of, I think it's about 8 a.m. New Zealand, and it's going to be about, I don't know. If you click on my YouTube and go to it, it'll tell you the details of the date there. I think it's the 15th of February for those in the other parts of the world. So yeah, so that's one thing that's kind of going on there. Now we'll just also go to Substack, substack.com. So as you can see here, I've got some new stuff rocking up here. I've got a new article here on One Clean Signal for Creativity. So it's a free one. So go in there, fill your boots. I've got another one here, Reiki Rioho, which is a paid subscription one. It's part of me sort of talking about, it's a good chunk of it's, but, you can read it. I generally put the paywall way down the bottom, so you get a good chunk of it and go, oh, is this worth my time? I think it's like, $6 or whatever it is to get a month membership, and you can do all this. Don't forget, guys, beyond just paying for the membership, you're also supporting the YouTube channel and all the works and the communications and the graphics and the equipment and everything else that goes into making this stuff. And I'm very grateful for you all. So, but this here has got, basically all of the, where are we? This has got pretty much all of the work on it. There's a bunch of videos that I haven't put up yet, and I've got to get to it. It just takes time. So all the Barden is up there, Hermetic specific. There's some Tai Chi stuff, Qigong. Yeah, I know some of the titles don't match. It's just housekeeping. But I've also got, if you click on, I think, there's there's a bunch of articles from a while back too. And so you can jump on and check that out. Let's see, is Rick coming back in? Oh, it doesn't look like Rick's it looks like his system crashed or something. So what we'll do, guys, is we'll probably just sort of leave it there. So I want to say thank you to Dr. Rick for joining us today. Please make sure you check out his website, richardallenmiller.com. And, Rick's pretty responsive to his emails. You can catch him on there. He's usually getting interviewed by people fairly regularly. But yeah, go check out his books, guys, because, there's a lot of stuff there to complement your practice. I'll say that. Like, there's a lot of Golden Dawn related material in there. But there's also, it goes well beyond that. Rick has studied with many, practiced with many, trained with many, and you can really take advantage of his many works by just checking out the website. So with that said, thank you, everyone. Thank you so, so much for joining us here today and for your patience while we work through some of the tech issues. My name is Phil Rice. I'm really grateful to you all. Have yourselves a beautiful, wonderful day. And I'll catch you guys again soon. And don't forget, this Sunday in New Zealand time, and it's afternoon, evening in the rest of the world, Saturday night, February the 15th, we're having another live panel for the Bard Inn. And I'm on a bunch of podcasts over the next few days on other people's channels too. So pretty busy here. But yeah, we'll keep getting you guys the good stuff. And man, thank you so much, everyone, for helping me out. I really appreciate you guys. All right. Have a beautiful afternoon or whatever it is, whenever, however, whoever, and we'll talk to you soon. All right. See ya.